And now, from the Marquee Media Studio inside Mark Tank, it's the Mark Haney Show.
Yes, this is the Mark Haney Show on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. And it's begun to happen, and it's because people are coming together for Sacramento entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are putting everything out on the line in order to win and taking all this risk and figuring out a way to make it happen. And thankfully, part of the help of that is the Sacramento community coming together as part of this backyard advantage that we're building. And it's actually a little bit of wind at the back for the entrepreneur. And on today's show, we have a man that is part of that leadership of Sacramento's business community. We have Darrell Teat. He is the CEO of Safety Center, Inc., but he's also the chamber president of the Sacramento Metro Chamber. And today he's going to be coming on the show talking about not only what's happening in Sacramento, but how to create a winning mindset for building your business. We even talk a little bit about building the right mindset for building a family. So stick around and hear the story of Darrell Teat. Super excited today to be joined by Darrell Teat. He is a successful business person. He's over at Safety Center, Inc. He's the president and CEO of Safety Center, Inc. And he's also the newest Sacramento Metro Chamber president. And I'm excited to have you on the show because I was thinking about the different areas where we align, and I thought it might be an interesting conversation. You have come into the chamber, and I'd say taken us by storm a little bit in your presence, the way you talk about leadership, the way you talk about winning. And I think that's what I want to talk about today mainly, is just how to win. But we're also aligned in that you're a family man, and your children are driven. So obviously good parenting is happening in the Teat house.
We hope.
Yeah, because the kids are so driven and they're on their path to success. So I want to talk about that too if there's time. But maybe we can just get a little bit of your background. You've been on the show, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, but let's maybe remind people who you are.
Absolutely. First off, thank you for the opportunity. Always admiring the work that you're doing and just your mindset about making it happen. You know, one of the things, I know you asked me a question, but I got to ask you a question real quick if you don't mind. So, and we were just talking about it, the family compound that you're building, right? And it's coming to fruition. When did that vision kind of start, spark in you? And then when did you say, you know what, it's time to move on this? Because action, when the thoughts come into our minds, absolutely everything, and you're a man of action.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of good things that have happened in my life have happened almost by accident.
Yeah.
And then you have to take action. Yeah. So this one was an accident. Somebody came in and made an offer on our house, and then they backed out of it. They made an offer that we couldn't refuse. One of those kind of like double the price of the, and then they backed out. But our family had already got excited about the potential of a family compound, because if we sold the house, hey, maybe we do a family compound. And the kids were so excited about the family compound that we went ahead and bought this piece of property that we had our heart set on in Loomis. And then we just had to start taking action. And it's been 4 or 5 years. Yeah. My kids and 8 grandkids live out there. Our house is almost done. So we've been chipping away, right? You take a little action, but sometimes it takes a little longer than you expect. So we've been chipping away at it. And the project is called Haneyville because it's an old winery that was dilapidated that used to look like a town. And we tore it down and we're rebuilding it to actually look like a replica of a town. So cool. Really a different, crazy idea, weird stuff I get myself into. So cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. And the reason why I ask is I have a vision like that for my family at some point. So one more question on that, and then I'll definitely answer your question. I always got to soak up the game for people who've gone before, right? So what have you learned on that journey of building this family compound? You talked about it's been a 4-year journey, because I need to shortcut the process some kind of way. The one thing that I have, I guess it's at least been reinforced, is the fun of having a big dream. This is like the most magical place in the world outside Disneyland. And I can imagine, it's like this dream is kind of like my secret friend, right? I think about it before I go to bed at night. I get up in the morning, I'm still thinking about it. It's like, wow. So a vision or a big dream can can almost be just this. It's like the coolest thing in the world when it begins to happen and the canvas begins to be painted. It is the most fun thing in the world to be working on. I'll tell you that.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I definitely really appreciate it.
Well, I want you to give your background, but then I want you to explain what your dream is for your family compound, because we both have 2 kids.
Absolutely.
Yours are just a lot younger.
Yep. They're getting there. So I've been very fortunate to, I have several jobs, as I say. My first job is to be the husband to my first girlfriend. We'll be married 22 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Second job is to be the dad to 2 awesome kids that are finding their way and really discovering their gifts, their talents, what I call their superpowers, and how to deploy them for good. So it's really cool to see them going along that journey to becoming the best version of themselves. And my daughter is 19, second year college student. My son's a senior in high school. So he's about to make that transition. So it's really fun time for us to help him master that, significant transition in life and see what he learns throughout the process. And then in all my spare time, I'm fortunate to be the CEO of Safety Center. It's a social enterprise based in Sacramento, most well known for Safetyville, the 3-acre miniature city. But I tell everybody we're born in Safetyville, right? So we actually have workplace safety training division. So we're actually the trainers, one of the trainers for Cal OSHA, our state regulators. We train California Department of, California Department of Water. We do City of Sacramento. We have contracts with community college districts in Southern California. So
Keep things safe so nobody gets hurt on the job.
Everything backhoe, excavator, confined space training. And we've been doing it for over 35 years. So we're really dominating that space in California. We've expanded into Nevada, and now we have our sights set on Arizona. We have a statewide DUI education platform, and then we also do motorcycle safety training as well with 2 sites in our region. So
that's a diverse set of work you do.
Absolutely, with the common thread and goal, right, of purpose of keeping people safe. Like, we're not firefighters, we're not doctors, police officers, but the work that we do, we have to bring our A game every single day in order to give the best of what we know in order for people to have a better chance of making it home safe every day.
And preventative stuff is the best way to, it's better to do that than after the fact.
Absolutely. So that's Safety Center. I've also been very fortunate over the last 10 years to go through a whole collection of experiences where I would say I've gained some wisdom as far as how to run businesses and how to build culture. So people have started coming to me and asking me if I can coach them on how to navigate some of their entrepreneurial journey, how to take the career from the next step, maybe from COO or executive, senior level manager to CEO, and then also how to just build a phenomenal culture. So Darrell Teat and Associates does that work. That's my purpose and passion work, and I call it, it's feed the beast work. So we can start putting to the side to build that family compound one day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really do believe that if we can envision where we're going to go, if we know where we're going to go, where we want to go, and we can actually envision it, it's a heck of a lot more likely to happen. You start chipping away at it, like I did on my latest endeavor with the family compound. Tell me what your vision looks like for you for the Teat family compound. Describe it to me so that I can get excited about it too.
Absolutely. So it will be a series of homes that actually house not only our family and our kids, but also our my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's families, our in-laws as well. We have a very, very close-knit family, and our kids grew up with their cousins. They're pretty much brother and sister. And as I envision our parents, seasoning and wanting to be in close proximity to their grandkids, to be able to provide that compound so that we can be in close proximity to them. One of the things we do know that as we season and get a little bit older, the likelihood for our health to improve and remain steady is to be around other people, right? It gives us purpose, it gives us joy, it gives us happiness, right? Those dopamine hits happen when we're around other living organisms, especially something that has a lot of energy. So in order to create that so that our parents can live in their latter years with a lot of joy and happiness and close proximity to their family.
How old are your parents?
So my parents are in their 60s.
In their 60s, so they're probably just a little bit older than me. So the one thing that I started doing, so I've been married 38 years, and my wife and I've never said this on the air before, but so as I started imagining what it would be like to be, 60, 70, 80 and die, probably die out there. What do I want to do out there? So we started down this path. I envisioned campfires and bonfires and things like that, and then like dancing with my wife around the campfire, around the bonfire. Awesome. So we started taking dance lessons because I can't dance, dude. I wasn't blessed with that.
Yeah, you can't dance yet. You can't dance yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So. But that, I think, is when you start. So what do your parents like to do? Like when you envision them, because to me, the more detail we can put on these dreams, the more real, you can start taking steps on it. Who knows? Maybe your parents start taking dance lessons.
Absolutely.
They probably don't need it.
So I'll tell you this. My mom loves to dance already.
Oh, wow.
Your
daughter's a dancer.
My daughter's a dancer, right? So I envision card games, right? Okay. My dad loves to play cards.
Is he a card shark?
Let's just say he's pretty good.
Okay.
He's pretty good. And then I just envision a ton of family gatherings, right? We have game nights. There's so many kids in the family. So I envision birthday parties where we don't have to go rent a location to have a birthday party. Yeah. So it's almost like a family reunion at any given weekend.
Well, I'm excited for you. I hope it's local for the good of Sacramento because of how much greatness that you do here. And that was important to us is I grew up here. And so ours is in Loomis, which is not too far from where I grew up. And so I didn't want to leave home because I wanted to sort of invest back into the place that grew me. And that's what I feel like we're working on here on the Mark Haney Show is sharing stories of winning so that it inspires somebody else to make a move in that direction as well. So when you think about that, you're helping people to achieve success. Maybe I'll just ask you kind of a generic question. Yeah. Why is being successful important?
That's a very good question. And as I become more successful, what I've realized that other people's success is directly tied to my success. So the more successful that I become and becoming that, whatever success means to you, and mine is the best version of me. As I continue to evolve into the best version of me, it spreads out into so many different areas because of the blessing of opportunities that I've had, which are diverse with the Metro Chamber, with Safety Center, with coaching, with other organizations I'm a part of, as a part of serving on their boards. So as I become more successful, I'm able to pass on that knowledge to all the organizations, the people that I serve, but then more importantly, to my family. I'm able to help them pass along that knowledge. Some of them listen, some don't, right? But for the experiences and the wisdom that I gain through the great things that happen and the challenges, the things where I'll be like, oh, I screwed that up, won't do that again. I pass that all along to the next, generation that's coming through the game, or those that actually have gone before me that have been blocked or stuck for some reason, and they need a breakthrough. And I'm able to help them go through that wall together. So somebody's success is tied to mine. So I got to hurry up, become the best version of me.
I love that. Success breeds success. And the best version of you, it's interesting to think about what your potential is, what any of our potentials is. And how do you assess that? It's the best version of you. And if somebody's listening, maybe there's a way to think of it as, how do we uncover what the best version of us might even be? What is our potential? Because I see a lot of people shooting pretty low.
Absolutely. So I'll say it all starts with how we think. And I saw a movie several years ago called Limitless. And a guy took a pill, and then all of a sudden when he took this pill, his brain just opened up. And he was able to connect the dots. He was able to read faster. He spoke different languages. So that actually put me on this quest. Like, you know what? I don't need a pill. right? So they say we use 3 to 4 to 5% of our brain. I'm gonna go along this journey to see if I can double how much of my brain that I use. Just see what happens and see how smart I could become and create that limitless factor naturally. So over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, I've been on, I call it YouTube University, just going through trying to figure out how my brain works. I've been feeding myself with inspiration and motivation and just knowledge and researching people. Like, for example, before this, I would have never knew who Bob Iger was, the CEO of Disney. I'm like, you know what? He's successful for a reason. As I start to study him more and more, I'm like, okay, that's a cheat code. That's a cheat code. And John Maxwell, and then various people like T.D. Jakes, who's a well-known international pastor, but he's a businessman as well. And one of the things that I learned from him is he said, you know what? People can incarcerate you at the time they met you and keep you locked into how they met you 10, 15, 20 years ago. And as we know, we're all growing and evolving. We should never be defined by one thing in a period, but after our name, we should have a comma. So as I describe myself, right, as we started off, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a CEO, I'm an executive coach, and there's so many things. I will soon be an author, right? There's a couple of books that I have in me. So that's becoming the best version of me, and with the purpose of taking all that information, I call it game, right? And just sharing it with people to help them take the lid off their life and their career.
Wow. Well, you mentioned Bob Iger, CEO of Disney.
Yep.
I guess he's back as the CEO. Yep. He wrote a book called Ride of a Lifetime, and he's an incredible storyteller. Yep. He really has a gift, and his one of the things that came to mind as you mentioned him was that our story, right? We all have this sort of story for our own lives, and sometimes that story doesn't look like the Teat family compound. Sometimes it looks like, that we've set our story in that we can't imagine ourselves even having that family compound. We can't imagine ourselves being the CEO of, a very important company or the chamber. We can't imagine that. And I feel like too many people have set that story in a way that they're not even that excited about it.
Yep, absolutely.
And that holds them back from finding their potential and finding, the best version of them.
Absolutely. It's sad, but oftentimes it's because of the environment that we're in, right? The environment that we're in sometimes reinforces those negative thoughts that are in our minds, right? As I was going along this journey and discovering more how my brain works, right? We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, depending on which research you use. 80% of those thoughts are negative, right? 90% of those percent of those 80% are repeat negative thoughts going through our mind every single day. So when we have already these negative thoughts that are creating headwinds for us going up this hill to success, and then we're in an environment around other people who are thinking negatively, right? All of a sudden, that story that you talked about gets reinforced over and over and over again. So it takes people like you to breathe life and tell other inspiring stories about, no, this is what you have in you, right?
We become what we think about,
this is it.
And the people we're they influence what we're thinking about.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking good stuff, so I'm kind of piggybacking on what you just said, but if we're thinking about how to win or what we want to accomplish, we're more well positioned. The actions start happening almost automatically.
Absolutely. So, there's that chronological order that starts with we reverse engineer our outcomes, right? It goes back to our thinking. How we think, right, dictates directly our emotions and our feelings. Our emotions and our feelings directly indicate and correlate to our actions and behaviors, and our actions and behaviors dictate our outcomes and results. So one of my strengths and superpowers is simplicity, right? Very, very good in business, but not so much at home sometimes, right? Not so much at home sometimes. But when we keep it really, really simple like that, let's just really focus on how we think. And then our ability, those that have influence, let us be thoughtful about how we help other people think. to really breaking that lid off of their lives, because everybody has seeds of greatness in them. Everybody has a gift. So let us be able to be really focused on helping people discover their gifts and their talents. And then not only just discover them, where people, I think, where we do a disservice sometimes is we help them discover their gifts and talents, but not how to activate them.
All right, well, let's talk about that, because I totally agree that what we're thinking about gets our attention, and that's, that's what affects our outcome. So one of the questions that I guess we have to ask ourselves on a daily basis is, what are we going to do with what we got? Yep. Right? So you have a set of attributes and strengths and weaknesses that I don't have, and I have stuff that you don't have, yep. And everybody's got these gifts, as you call them, and things maybe that we're not as good at. You talked the other day at one of the chamber events about what our superpower is. You tried to help us discover our superpower. We all went around and shared that. You've got us thinking about improvement at the chamber thing, which I was very impressed with. So let's talk about this. What are you going to do with what you got? You've got a superpower. You've got a gift. How do we tap into that? Because I think sometimes that superpower is actually something we're embarrassed about, or maybe is even sort of something where other people might think is weird, but really for us, it's our superpower.
Absolutely. One of the things so I love the Avengers, and I think I had shared that, right? Absolutely love the Avengers. We see our family sees pretty much every Avengers movie when it comes out. And the reason why I think I love the Avengers is the characters are great, right? But they use their superpowers for good. And when we're really thoughtful about, I have this gift, and it may be X, Y, or Z, or not maybe what some people may perceive as impressive as somebody else's gift, but somebody is depending on me to use my superpower for good to help them along their journey to success. So when we take it from being self-focused on me, but somebody is waiting on me, I'm actually going to help somebody else, it creates a little bit more momentum, because we all love to help. That's at the root and pretty much of everybody who I've come in contact with. There's a couple of things we love to do. We love to talk about ourselves, and we love to help other people. Yeah. So when we are able to help people identify what that gift, that talent, that superpower is, and then how to deploy it to help someone else intentionally. And it may not be every day, all day, but it may be once a day, maybe once a month, maybe once a week. But when we start intentionally thinking about how we're going to help somebody else with our superpower, all of a sudden we start getting those dopamine hits, right? The oxytocin starts flowing, and then we start feeling good. It's like, oh, that feels really good to use that superpower. And then we do it over, and we do it over, and we do it over again. So in actuality, it's a little self-serving. Sometimes it makes us feel good to use our superpower. So then why not use it all day, every day if we could? It's
interesting because as we went around the room at the chamber event and talked about our superpower, I was a little bit embarrassed about my superpower, because as I started thinking about what it was, I think I'm a daydream believer. I'm one of these people that likes to dream about Haneyville, or what we're doing with the Growth Factory and the Backyard Advantage, the most connected community in the world for local entrepreneurs, and it's all about love and helping each other. It's sort of far-fetched. It could be construed or thought of as very far-fetched because it's such a long way off. Mm-hmm. But the dream actually gets a little bit of traction, and then people start helping each other. So I'm embarrassed about these fantastic dreams, but if I cannot get embarrassed about my superpower and what I really want to do with it, actually, I'm not the only one that thinks like I want to help entrepreneurs. Do you think maybe you're a little bit alone? But you're not.
Nope, absolutely. And that particular superpower that you have is of dreaming, I can perceive it, we can capture it as vision, right? So you have ability to cast a phenomenal vision for people to be able to follow, and then tap their superpowers into the vision that you have in order to help other entrepreneurs. So for those that might say, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed by my vision, I'm a daydreamer or something like that. It's like, you know what? Actually, it just takes somebody to recast the lens that we look at our superpower through, right? Everything is about the lens we look at it through.
Yeah. One of the things that I see is that people so they underestimate their superpowers, and then they're sometimes a little bit shy about it. But then, taking that first action, they might be embarrassed, but there's fear associated with making those changes. Any thoughts about prompting? So what are you going to do with what you got? You need to take some action of what those first actions may be when we decide we want to make a change for finding the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things to consider, right? Because it changes challenging for many, right? So a couple of things. Number one, the why the change needs to happen needs to be extremely strong, and that's authentic to them, right? So sometimes we need a catastrophic moment to happen in our life to put us into action, right? And one of the things I pray for is like, I don't need a catastrophic something to happen in my life for me to be take my superpowers and be good. Okay. Like I got the message, I'm gonna make it happen. Right. So it's like, okay, why? What is depending on me using my superpower? It may be to help someone else. It may be to help my family, but that why has to be very strong. Then number two is to ask ourselves, what's the most logical next step? Or what's the safest next step? Right. We don't have to do anything grandiose. Right. But it could be those small acts of whether it be kindness or stepping out on the ledge and helping someone that actually just starts to move the needle to get those small wins. Right. Those small wins start to gain momentum. And then when we gain momentum, once it's going like a train, right, it's really hard to stop. And even in business, right, and in life, it's all synonymous with, for me, is how do I keep momentum? Once I gain momentum in an area, my number one focus is what do I need to do today to continue to keep this momentum in this particular direction?
Interesting that you talk about the purpose and the why, and we want to get ourselves thinking about that stuff. One of the questions I ask myself every morning, I sort of look at it on my screen. It's part of my little meditation process for getting me to think more about what I need to be thinking about versus other stuff that's a waste of time. And I think about what I would be willing to die for and who I would be willing to die for. Mm-hmm. And it puts a level of importance to the goals that I have.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. One of the things that, in a similar vein, what I discovered, I was doing a strategy session probably about a year ago for a couple of our business lines at Safety Center. And I had the spreadsheet out and we came up with our, who the owner of the action item was and what, who the secondary person was, their guide, and what success looks like. And then it hit me. And what we need to be really clear on, if we don't do this, what happens? So I call it the if not factor. Some people say, why not? I call it the if not. If I don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And am I willing to live with that result?
Wow.
9 times out of 10.
Almost putting like a negative consequence to the outcome.
Absolutely.
And in what scenario do you see like that's most effective?
A lot of times.
I haven't done much of that. So I'm
it's been very helpful in several areas, right? Not only professionally, but also personally. So for example, if I don't continue along this journey to becoming the best version of me and identifying how to get a little bit more of my brain power, squeeze a little bit more juice out of my brain power, who's going to suffer? People who's going to suffer, number one, is my family. Right? Because I want their success is directly tied to my success. So they're going to suffer. Am I good with that? Absolutely not.
Yeah, you think about what kind of pain you want. You want regret and negative outcome, or do you want the pain of getting off your butt and going to work, doing the job, kicking butt, being the best?
Absolutely.
It's painful to do that.
It's either or.
Painful to work harder than the other people around you.
Absolutely. And not really knowing what the result's going to be, right? So you just got to do it anyway. One of the things, I played college basketball. I was blessed, played at Santa Clara. when I got to Santa Clara, it's Division I school. We played Arkansas and Cincinnati and all these schools, and we're putting in all this work. And I had dreams of playing in the NBA. And I'm putting in all this work, and it's painful to put in all that work to become an elite athlete. And I really didn't know what the next chapter was going to hold, but I did it anyway. And it wasn't until probably 10 years ago that I was able to recalibrate my mind back into that thinking of, I'm going to put in this work, not knowing ultimately what the outcome's going to be. I have a vision, but am I willing to not put in the work? And once I recalibrated that mindset and my thinking, it's like a hockey puck moment in my career, in my life, my happiness and my joy. Because then I started discovering more about my purpose, and I discovered like, hey, if I do this, I'm actually operating in my purpose. I'm happier. Then everything else becomes a little bit more palatable. Yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's obstacles. But even with sports, right? You were going and play in Gonzaga at Gonzaga, right? It's like, okay, we're in their home court. They're, top 25 ranked school in the country. We're really good. We can go in with the lens of, you know what? We're about to get homered. There's no way they're going to catch fire. Or we can go in the lens of, we put in just as much work and we deserve to win. And if the game is called fair, which we believe is going to be called fair, we're going to just let the chips fall where they may. They go be in for a run of their money, and we might come out on top.
I like how you said just do it anyway, even though it's going to be painful. One of the things that I think I've seen this with a lot of people, and I've even seen it in myself a lot, is we bite off more than we can chew. We're doing too many things in our life. Last night I went to a Carrie Underwood concert, which I don't typically go out and stay out late at night. So it makes getting up in the morning harder, but you show up anyway. Yep. You go anyway. And that's, for me, some people call that self-discipline. I don't think it's self-discipline as much as it is cutting everything else out of your life so you can have a system where it doesn't take that much. So it's not that hard to get up most of the time because I go to bed early, right? Yep. Or whatever your program is. Create a system that makes it easy to work hard.
Absolutely. It says, as I season, I have come to realize the importance of systems, not only in business, right, but systems for our personal life. And growing up as an athlete, there was a built-in system, right? You wake up, you go work out, you go to school, you work out again, you go to class, you go to practice, you eat, do homework, you get some shots up at night, you go to sleep, you do it over, right? And then in the summer, there's a system. But then as we start to get into the professional world, as an athlete, a former athlete, right, I'm like, okay, now it's just go to work. And
so many options.
And then what else do I got to? I could do this, I could do that. But it wasn't until I was able to put that system back in place. And actually what happened was when I really discovered that why is what prompted everything. That system came in place because I need that system in order to hit the why. My why before was getting to the NBA. Now my why is to become this best version of myself, to build a legacy for my family. And now the system is built around that. Mm-hmm. And that's my health. That's, my spirituality and my faith. That's my connections to people. That's who I spend time with that pour into me, right? And that's all intentional because we are what we filled up with. So part of my system is being really, really thoughtful about what I fill myself up with, because whatever I fill myself up with is going to come out like a glass, right? You fill it up with water, it starts to overflow, water's going to come out. But if you fill it up with Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid's going to come out and it's going to infiltrate on everybody that I come in contact with.
Well, those systems, one of the systems that has helped me, or one of the tools to the system that I'm building, it's kind of a work in progress, as we all are. But I wrote a mission statement about 10 years ago, and it's been this guiding light for me. So the mission statement ends up being sort of part of my tool set, and everything, the set of tools rally, are around this this mission around creating opportunity for my family, my friends, and my community. And that's been, it's something I really want to do. And a lot of people start things. I think we have a lot of people that start things in their life, but our world doesn't have as many finishers as we need. Yeah. And so getting back to our collective, where we're going with it, take a step with what you said, but then don't quit. Don't quit on it, because there's too many people that get started down these variety of steps, and then all of a sudden, what happened to the steps, man? We quit.
We quit. And this is, so I'll share with you, there's been several things that I've quit, right? I've quit jobs. I started a consultancy where I was doing interim executive work. And I was hired by, organizations to go in and help transform their company. And it got rough, like I was booming for a while. And then I was like, okay, I'm one person, I got to scale. That means I got to bring on another person, right? The whole entrepreneurial journey. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm about to have 2 tuitions in 6 months. And the revenue that I got coming in is not going to sustain the mortgage. And so then I diverted, right? And then as I look back on that, it's like, man, what would have happened if I would have stuck with it? I don't know how close I really was. I could have been that close to a major breakthrough where everything would have been taken care of, right? I might have found that partner, that door would have opened. And I'll share, one of the most inspiring people to me is my best friend, Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Right. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, it's not, and Chris has this unwavering belief, number one. But number two, what I've discovered from Chris, and then all through just my own journey, is we quit when it's not that important. We think it's important, but it's not that important. So one of the things I heard from John Maxwell, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, is he said, success in business and in any endeavor, the more valid reasons we have to go into that particular endeavor, the more likelihood that it will be successful. And I'm like, wow, it's really simple. And it goes back to that why, right? Like, why are we doing what we're doing, and why do we? And then that why is what allows for us to push through.
Well, it's interesting. First of all, Chris Johnson, great guy, Rapid Ramen, and it's enterprise that's really scaled, really just a tremendous example of what an entrepreneur can be. So want to make sure our audience knows who that is. But in terms of that breakthrough moment and the why, maybe your why wasn't there. My read on this is that family compound, best version of yourself is really what the vision is and what the why is. And I think there's times when we need to pivot to find that.
Absolutely.
But what I would say is I can give you example after example of when it's getting difficult and you're starting to lose confidence and things aren't going your way and COVID hits and all this other stuff. Yeah. That's when the breakthrough can happen. Yep. It can happen then. And if we stop wanting it, that's a whole nother thing. So if we start with the why, for mine, it was around creating opportunity. Yeah. So as long as I know I'm going in that direction, I feel okay about pivoting a bit and looking for a breakthrough or attacking from a different direction. So now you're attacking from a different direction.
That's exactly it. And you talk about COVID, and our experiences create how we engage in the future. So I'll tell you this: if COVID would have happened with me being a CEO 5 years ago, I don't know what would have happened to Safety Center, right? But the collection of experiences and the maturation that I've experienced over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and really harken in on my why and my purpose, there was absolutely no way that COVID would have, altered the course of Safety Center. While it altered the course as far as how we operate, it didn't shut us down like some companies did, because I was able to see the lens, along with the coaches and the guys that I've had in my life, of, we're going to use this opportunity to pivot, for that word that everybody uses right through COVID, to pivot and take our company in a whole nother direction, staying focused on our purpose. And now we're going to look at it through the lens of, this is a phenomenal opportunity. Let's be the first ones to take our business in this particular industry virtual, and let's see what happens.
Did you have people that help you with that?
So we did have some people that helped us with that. I'll tell you, our team number one, the team at Safety Center did a phenomenal job. We had to shrink down, right? Because we didn't know how long it was going to last, the shutdown. And over the course of about 60 days, the people that we shrunk down to 24 people in 3 different divisions, the work output that happened was like something I've never seen in my life. The camaraderie, the teamwork, right? And the thought process. We were thinking differently. All of a sudden we went into entrepreneurial mode and say, you know what? We can make this happen. Let's be the first to market, and let's do it with excellence, and then let the chips fall where they may.
It takes, for me, a lot of when I've gotten a slump, it's when I've had these doubts and I've wallowed in uncertainty about making a decision. You vacillate on this and that. And all that time spent, I guess, wallowing in doubt, it really does end up becoming a waste of time. And one of the things that's helped me, and this is, I'm thinking it probably was effective with your organization, is if you had the right people by your side, it gives you an extra bit of courage
Absolutely.
to make those tough decisions, right? There's a lot of difficult decisions when you're pivoting like that or changing your course. But if you have people that are willing to fight alongside you, it gives you the courage to step out and do your job, which is lead.
Absolutely. And we had quite a few people on the team. That core group that we shrunk down to was willing to fight, right? They were willing to fight. They were willing to trust me as a leader, which gave me extra courage, right? And more importantly, I would say we created some small wins, and the people we created, our culture started all over during COVID. Mm-hmm. And people make the culture. So you talked about, it's so cool when you have people on your side. Having the right people on your side, to your left, to your right, to your front, to your back, but are in your company. People are absolutely everything. A culture and company is nothing but a collection of people working towards a common goal, right? And culture, I encourage everyone, the corporate boards that I serve on, right? I'm like the culture guy, because no matter if you have 5 or 500 employees, if the culture is not right, if the soil's not right, it's not going to produce the right fruit and outcome. It goes back, and it goes back to, how do we think about our company, right? So we can always reverse engineer everything that happens in our life, and how we lead and how we build things by how we think about it.
Well, I love how what you've done with the culture of Sacramento Metro Chamber, and you're bringing this idea of helping us see ourselves in the vision of Sacramento Metro Chamber. Yep. Where do you see yourself? Because I think what happens, when building companies, if your employees or your teammates don't see themselves in the final outcome or in the vision, then they don't feel ownership in this process, and your culture is not as strong.
Absolutely.
And you've done a phenomenal job of getting us, just since you came in, getting us to think that way. You're connecting with us in a way that makes us look within ourselves to find our superpower, in last meeting's case, but to see how it applies to where we're taking this organization. So I don't know if there's any other tips that you can share with us about building a great culture.
I can talk for days on culture, because I absolutely love culture and developing cultures. But I will say a couple things. Number one, you have to be explicit about the culture you're looking to build, and what the definition of what a great culture means for that particular organization. Right. And not only definition of great culture for an organization, as I've seasoned, I'm like, we are building a culture as a family as well. What is our family culture? And to be really explicit with the family, like this, like when people come into our home, We want that part of our culture to be peace. So that when they come in and if they spent the night here, like they got the best night's sleep that they ever had before. Because there's so much drama in the world, there's so much negativity to have so much, but when they come here, we want them to be peaceful. So that means how we engage with each other has to be extremely loving and kind and peaceful and respectful and encouraging, so that vibe just runs off, right? That there's no residue of angst and anxiety and stress and challenge to the greatest extent possible. Let's be peaceful. So when people come out, like that's part of our family culture.
That's a cool culture.
And so
that doesn't sound like our culture. No, I'm kidding.
but for a company, it's about being very communicative about what our culture is, what it stands for, but more importantly, what it's not.
And if you're a CEO or a mom or dad, you're the leader of an organization, this be explicit piece, I think, is something that we should obsess on as leaders, that it's okay to over communicate where we're going, what we're doing, what the culture ought to be, what we're working toward as a family, as a business. I think as CEOs, and I think part of it's courage, it may be laziness, but sometimes we don't find our voice in time. But when we find that voice and we become explicit, it gets other people finding a way to be explicit as well, right? They start repeating the messaging.
Absolutely.
And next thing you know, we've got mantras and we're all singing from the same hymn book.
Yep, absolutely. As you said, you cannot over communicate. You just can't, because people hear things at different times. And I don't know what the study really is, but it takes about 14, 18 times for people to see something and hear something together in order for it to become sticky. So you think about over the course of a year, how often do we really be explicit about, as leaders, about culture? So if we're doing it twice or once at the annual all-staff meeting, that's not enough. If we do it through a couple of emails here and there, we never know what lens or what context or what's happening when that person's reading that email. Are they in the right space to receive the spirit of what that culture really means? So we have to be thoughtful about creating the environment and the ecosystem so that people can hear the spirit of what this culture really means, so that they digest the words and then see the words in action. And then we have to consistently show and reinforce and reward the behaviors for those that are actually engaging in ways that the culture we want to build, right? So people see, hey, I want that reward too. That's just how we are as people. Somebody's getting rewarded for something, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to get rewarded for that too. So when we reward people for the behaviors that we want to have happen in order to build this culture, other people see it. And there's nothing like, I think something that's like number one above money is public recognition in companies, is what employees crave for, right? And we can do that, right? We just got to be intentional about doing it. And then creating a culture where other people now do it, so that we build a system, going back to your thing, building systems, which is really free, right? Like free 99, as they say, in order to help encourage and reward the behaviors that we want to build this culture, so that the leader doesn't necessarily have to do it, but the colleagues are doing it. And that's when you start to get that momentum. And when you got the momentum of rewarding people are celebrating successes, right? We'll start with that. When we have people in our companies and our colleagues are celebrating each other's successes and giving shout outs, hey, I heard somebody dealt with a difficult customer. I just want to say they used their superpower, did a phenomenal job. Or, hey, got a call from somebody and said that we had one of the best training sessions for confined space ever, and just sending it out, right? And being bold enough as leaders to create that environment and those portals to be able to communicate, and not saying, oh, we're just going to inundate people's emails. I would rather read positive stories about how our company is making things happen and changing the lives of people that we serve over, hey, I got to read these financial statements again, right? Got to do that part. But what we're filling ourselves, we're filling our company up with these activities that are reinforcing our cultures. We should spend a lot of time really thinking about creating those systems to do that.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, but I want to make sure that we talk about Sacramento and the greater Sacramento region. Yep. And the business community. I'm focused in entrepreneurship. You're the Sacramento Metro Chamber president, CEO, president or CEO?
Board chair.
Board chair.
Board
okay.
president.
Let's
Board
get the
president.
title right. But we're both active in our own way in the greater Sacramento business community. And it feels like we're moving in the right direction. Absolutely. And I want to thank you for what you're doing. But I mean, where do you see us going if you were to, pull out the crystal ball and maybe paint a vision for us or help us think about what the vision might look like for the Sacramento business community?
So thank you, number one, for the kind words. And it's not me at the Metro Chamber at all. It's the team. It's Amanda Blackwood, who is the CEO, and all of her team that is doing the work behind the scenes, right? Working with all of our members, working with our elected officials in order to create the right ecosystem and environment for business to be successful. So the credit goes all to them. I just get the privilege of serving as the chair for 1 year. But as far as where we're going, you talked about being connected a little earlier, right? In your I believe you called it
the most connected community in the world for local entrepreneurs. And at the heart of that community is love.
So awesome, right? I see us moving towards that particular vision. There are more connected businesses now than it was 15 years ago. There are more resources now than when it was when I moved here 15 years ago. There's more of a focus, right? Where our focus goes, our energy flows. There's a more focus on creating opportunities for entrepreneurs and businesses to be successful. And then that's giving people the courage to say, you know what? Let me just step out on faith and use my superpower and join this party, join the momentum. So the momentum is building, and there's more and more, whether it be universities saying, hey, now we're going to devote some resources to start up an incubator or an opportunity. And then you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and use my resources to do it as well. The Metro Chamber with the Metro Business Center saying we got some funding. Now we're going to create free consulting opportunities. And then the various chambers doing the same thing for their various members and constituencies. So there's this momentum that's being built, and people are now starting to work together and say, hey, you provide this service. I need that from somewhere. I might as well buy it and use a company or work with a company right here in Sacramento rather than Chicago, Illinois, or the Bay Area. And now there's this connectedness and saying, look, let's just win together. There's enough for all of us to win together.
And what I've seen happen in this too is when people begin helping one another, especially locally, you begin helping one another. It feels good to the person that's helping. It feels good when you help somebody. And invariably, I don't know if it's karma or what, but opportunity ends up showing up when that happens. Every time you help somebody, some sort of magic happens, and it looks like opportunity.
Yep. They say there's always an opportunity within the opportunity, right? So there's an opportunity to help someone, but there's always going to be an opportunity, some kind of way for you to be helped as well. So as long as we look for that and be intentional for looking for that, that's how we start to create even more momentum. And just taking the coffee or reaching out to someone who has a successful business that you admire from afar, and like, you know, I just want to learn what you got going on. You making things happen. I need to learn something so I could be that best version of me. Help me. People love, like I said, people love to talk about themselves and help other people. And when you could do both, there's no reason why they won't take the time. You take that knowledge and that insight, use it for your business, pass it on to the next. And now we got that virtuous circle of success and celebrating each other and helping each other and people cheering from each other from the sidelines.
I love it. Well, Darrell, thank you for what you do for Sacramento. Thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom and inspiration with our audience. Appreciate you. I look forward to your family compound. I'm making that as one of my visions for you.
We need all the help we could get. I appreciate
all right, let's make it come together.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Welcome back to the Mark Haney Show, and really a pleasure talking to Darrell Teat. He is giving of his time. He's a guy that has had success in athletics as well as in business, and now he's helping the next person in line. And so I really enjoyed the spirited conversation about how to win. And one of the one of the things that I think is interesting is the way that entrepreneurs can even though we're so much different in many ways, we find a way to have commonalities in the way we think and the things that are important to us. And of course, for me and Darrell, we both care about our family more than anything else. So to all you out there fighting the good fight for our freedom, our security, and our way of life, and of course, all you out there fighting the good fight for entrepreneurship. Here at Haney Biz, here at the Mark Haney Show, here at the Growth Factory, we're never above you. We're never below you. Always by your side.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.